Night of Champions this past Saturday, I thought just continued the streak of great pay-per-view live events, premium live events, whatever the hell that WWE wants to call them. I thought it was great. It was a great show with an absolutely amazing ending. We're going to break it all down. As always, let's get into it. So you guys know how we do it in these reviews, thoughts, whatever you want to call them, live review videos, whatever that, I don't care. Point is, we like to jump around. I don't like going in order. I'm not your match by match, move by move breakdown guy. I'm not that guy. I want to talk about the best stuff, and then we'll just give some thoughts on the rest of it. Of course, in your main event of Night of Champions, we had Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn defending the undisputed tag team titles against Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns. And as we speculated, the Usos getting involved in the finish. At first, just like they did a few weeks ago, it seemed like they were trying to help Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, but also, as it seemed a few weeks ago on Smackdown, Roman Reigns wanted no part of the Usos getting involved in his business, which eventually led to, of course, him getting in both of their faces. And then what a moment it was. Jimmy Uso super kicking Roman Reigns not once but twice, and Jey Uso doing his best Emmy Award, reaction as he's been doing for like the last 5 months. Jey is just the most stressed out man on Friday Night SmackDown. Like, that dude is just going through it. But Jimmy Uso turning his back on Roman Reigns, and it just adds another great moment in this bloodline storyline, man. You go through just the last 5-6 months alone, Sami Zayn turning on Roman at the Rumble, the whole, honestly, Elimination Chamber, just that whole vibe, that whole night between Sami versus Roman, Jey turning on Sami, WrestleMania, now this, like, there's just pivotal moments throughout this storyline that we're going to look back on years from now, and this is one of them, man, and it just adds the next chapter into what is now going to become Roman and Solo versus the Usos, possibly eventually even Solo drifting away from Roman and Roman losing his entire bloodline. But my biggest takeaway here, outside of the fact that it was a great main event, I really enjoyed it, and of course with a great finish, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn retaining the tag team titles, my biggest takeaway here is that hopefully Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn will finally move on from the bloodline. This was a perfect ending to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn chapter with the whole Roman Reigns and bloodline storyline, everything they did to basically blow up the bloodline and get the Usos to turn on Roman. They got what they wanted, and they retained the tag team titles. I know they still can appear on SmackDown, of course, because they are the champs, but there's no reason for them still to be rubbing elbows with the Usos, Solo, Roman. That chapter is done. You had WrestleMania, you had this at Night of Champions. Time to move on for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They have a laundry list of tag teams in between Raw and SmackDown in the tag team division that they should be defending those championships against. They've already laid the groundwork for them versus Imperium. They've already laid the groundwork for them versus Judgment Day for the tag team title. So hopefully Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn move on to something like that. And then as for the bloodline storyline, we got Money in the Bank coming up next month. We could be seeing Roman Reigns versus Jimmy Uso one-on-one, which obviously Jimmy Uso doesn't stand a chance at winning that matchup, but it'll still be interesting to see how they go about it. Or we could see the rumored tag team matchup between the Usos versus Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. I honestly could see them doing Jimmy versus Roman, with this whole build-up kind of being where's Jey Uso's, honestly, alliance, or allegiance lie, I should say. Because even though Jimmy was the one that pulled the trigger and he left with Jimmy Uso at Night of Champions, Jey is still so back and forth. He's been trying to keep the peace between Jimmy and Roman for weeks. We could see the build-up between a possible Jimmy Uso versus Roman Reigns match at Money in the Bank being where does Jey Uso lie, and then at Money in the Bank, even though Roman would obviously win and retain, however they want to go about it, Jey officially turns on Roman, and then we lead to the big tag team matchup at SummerSlam. All remains to be seen, but as for the Night of Champions main event, everything was executed to perfection, and I am very much looking forward to where all these storylines are going to head into Money in the Bank and into SummerSlam. I'll save the World Heavyweight Championship match for last. Let's talk about the women's division matches. We had Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus, and you guys know if you watched my prediction video, I was really not feeling any of these women's matches. The two title matches felt thrown together to me, and I really haven't enjoyed the Becky versus Trish feud. I haven't enjoyed any of their segments. Their promos really haven't been great. I just wasn't feeling it. However, this match delivered more than I thought it would. Becky versus Trish put on a good match, especially the last few minutes. The finish with Zoe Stark getting involved and aligning herself with Trish, I thought was a great idea. And it was definitely, like I said, just above what I expected was going to happen between these two women. It was a really good matchup, and as I mentioned, Zoe Stark getting involved, definitely a added bonus to the storyline, which I think could possibly elevate somebody else on Becky Lynch's side. If Zoe's going to be with Trish, and Trish is going to be, getting Zoe to where she needs to be a, you know, top star one day, if that's what you want to say. You know, Becky is eventually going to need some help. It could be Lita coming back to align herself, but I think it would be a better idea to have a young star with Becky Lynch as well, not to necessarily be two full-time tag teams, but just to have each other's back in this, you know, prolonging storyline. So maybe I looked up and down the Raw roster. Babyface wise, Tegan Nox isn't doing anything, so I'd love to see Tegan possibly align herself for a period of time with Becky Lynch to kind of counteract Zoe Stark. I think that'd be a great idea. But the match was good. I like the finish. It definitely was better than what I expected. Smackdown Women's Title match. This was great. Honestly, I was not looking forward to this match at all, and the match went like a minute. Rhea Ripley just squashed Natalya, retained the Women's Championship. Nice and easy. That's exactly what I wasn't even hoping for that. I was just hoping it was going to be short, but it was shorter than I expected. And I was like, well, this is just making this night even better. It's already been a good show. And then we had the Raw Women's Championship match, which actually happened before. Did it? Yeah, happened before the SmackDown Women's Championship match between Asuka and Bianca Belair. And I didn't really like this match as much as their WrestleMania one. I thought their Mania match was better. However, there was a few minutes in this matchup near the end where it was actually a solid stretch to close out this matchup. And a big surprise, Asuka winning the Raw Women's Championship. You know, I picked Asuka to win at WrestleMania. She lost. And then coming into this match, even though I wanted Asuka to win, I picked Bianca because I just felt like there's no reason for this match to happen if Asuka's going to lose. However, this whole storyline build-up for this just feels like a match thrown together for Night of Champions. I really didn't foresee Asuka winning the title, but she did. She turned heel in the build. She used the spray to her advantage. She sprayed it on her fingers, got it in the eye of Bianca Belair, a couple of kicks, knocked her out, and won the women's title. I thought it was a great move, great finish to a match that I thought was okay, and I'm very much looking forward now to seeing what's going to happen with the Women's Championship on SmackDown. I hope they redub these titles now that they've gotten through Night of Champions, gotten through some defenses between Rhea and Bianca. And now Asuka holding the gold. I hope we can redub these titles since they're both on the opposite brands. But Asuka versus Io Sky, that's gotta be, you know, down the line. I think that's a great matchup for SummerSlam. It's one of the best matches they could do with the women's division they got on SmackDown, which I don't think is as good as the Raw women's division. I think SmackDown doesn't really have too many options, but Asuka versus Io Sky for the women's championship at possibly, like I said, SummerSlam, I think would be a great idea. Hell, Io Sky winning the women's Money in the Bank coming up next month, I think would be a great idea, possibly leading to one of those matches down the line between her and Asuka. Even if it's not SummerSlam, towards the end of the year for a big feud, I think it'd be a great idea. But Asuka winning the championship, I thought was a great move. Definitely took me by surprise. Gunther and Mustafa Ali for the Intercontinental Championship. Didn't go too long, man, but Mustafa still got a good showcase in this match. I was really looking forward to it. I'm a big fan of Ali. I was really happy he got this showcase and big moment in Saudi for the Intercontinental title against Gunther. I didn't think he stood a chance at winning, but, you know, it still was a good matchup for what it was. He showed a couple of signs of life in there where they made you think he was going to win, but ultimately Gunther retained the Intercontinental Championship for a shorter match. It was still only, I don't even think it was a full 10 minutes. It was still a good matchup between Gunther and Ali. And with Money in the Bank coming up next month in London, I'm very interested to see who Gunther will be defending the Intercontinental Championship against. He's definitely got to be on that show. You know, there's possible names on the Raw roster, depending on when they plan on having Gunther drop that Intercontinental Championship. I could very much see an idea that we talked about recently here on the channel, Ilya Dragunov coming up from NXT. I think he is a very legit candidate to defeat Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. I think that match happening in London at Money in the Bank, yes, it might be a little bit soon for Ilya Dragunov coming up to main roster and immediately challenging Gunther, but I mean, what a way to introduce him to that Monday Night Raw main roster fan base. That's just a far-fetched idea, but I would love to see it. Or possibly Gunther might not even defend the Intercontinental Championship. Gunther, I think, is a top candidate to win the Money in the Bank match. Whether he's in or not, all remains to be seen, but definitely look forward to seeing what they do with him in London at Money in the Bank. Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes was what it was. It wasn't their Backlash match. I think that match was better. However, this match, of course, had the story of Cody's broken arm playing into it, so it did make sense, and the finish made sense as well. It's basically what we predicted in a sense, you know, over these last couple of weeks, and of course in the prediction video. Brock Lesnar winning by some kind of referee stoppage, and Cody Rhodes basically passed out to the Kimura lock here. So that was basically Brock beating up Cody for, you know, a couple of minutes, and then Cody showing some signs of life, and actually, you know, we had a couple of good moments in here. It was what it was. It wasn't a bad match. It wasn't a great match. I don't think it was as good as their Backlash match, which I liked more compared to this, but we're definitely going to get a third match, man. I don't know if it's going to happen at Money in the Bank. I think they're going to go to SummerSlam with it. I can honestly see, I don't want this to happen, but I could honestly see Cody possibly entering the Money in the Bank match, you know, through a last-minute qualifier, barely survives. He's still selling the arm injury through the whole thing. And I could honestly see if they wanted to split apart Cody versus Brock for a while, Brock challenging Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship at Money in the Bank. I don't want to see Brock challenging for any world titles, but it's a possibility. Or, since Brock, you know, just would not stop beating up Cody Rhodes and had the Kimura lock in him, maybe Adam Pearce is going to suspend him for a month or something like that to kind of write Brock Lesnar off television to delay a third match until SummerSlam. Remains to be seen. We got Raw tonight. I'm sure we're going to get some details on what's going to happen next, but Brock beating Cody by the referee stoppage makes a lot of sense, and I do hope if we get that third match at SummerSlam, they add a stipulation to it. It just makes the most sense. You can't send these guys out there in another wrestling match when this whole storyline has been pretty violent and brutal through all the attacks and even the matches with some blood at Backlash, the arm injury here. It just makes the most sense, man. We threw out ideas on the channel weeks ago. Fight Pit. What was the other idea? What the hell was the idea? Texas Bull Rope match. Last man standing. Like, there's a bunch of different ideas they could do for Cody versus Brock. Hell, even if you just want to make it a good old no holds barred, just let them go out there and beat the hell out of each other with no restrictions at SummerSlam so we can get the best possible outcome to this storyline, if you will. And I would still love, you know, even though we're already this deep and I don't think it's going to happen, if we got some explanation as to why Brock hates Cody's guts. I mean, that would be great, right? In storyline perspective, but I doubt, honestly, we're even going to get that. When it comes to SummerSlam and a third match, hopefully they just up the ante and end the storyline on a high note. And then, of course, in the opening match of the show, we had AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins to crown the new World Heavyweight Champion. I'm in the same boat as a lot of people. I did not want to see this match open the show to crown the new World Heavyweight Champion. Just screams some of the bad lineage of the old World Heavyweight Championship that really just stunk it up near the end of its run. It was just opening pay-per-views, didn't really feel that important. However, I guess the reasoning for this online was because Seth Rollins had to head right back to the US to continue filming Captain America, I guess, to get it done or whatever. He said he wasn't going to be missing any Monday Night Raw, so that's a good sign. So if that's the reason, I understand, but, you know, it is what it is. At the same time, even if that wasn't the reason, I feel it would have felt weird having the Jimmy Uso turn happen earlier in the night. Like, as Roman Reigns, if he's not opening the show, I think he's always main events, right? It's always one of the two, or I should have said vice versa, because if he's not main eventing, then they'll usually put him on first. So it would have felt weird having Roman and that whole situation open the show, but it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, I don't think this is going to be a continuing thing that it opened the show. I think it's just a one-time thing. It is what it is. But nonetheless, man, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, this is what I want to continue to see with this new World Heavyweight Championship. Just great competitive wrestling matches, because that's going to continue to put over this world title, which the rumors have gone back and forth, but it looks like this is a brand new lineage for the World Heavyweight Championship. It won't be continuing the old one, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but it is what it is. It doesn't really matter. I'm sure, you know, anytime somebody talks about being a world champion in years past, they're still going to refer to the old lineage, so it doesn't really matter. But ultimately, great matchup. Seth Rollins winning in the end to become the new World Heavyweight Champion. You know, and I've been back and forth, but I ultimately predicted Seth Rollins to win the World Heavyweight Championship, and that is what happened, and I have no problem with that. If AJ Styles would have won, would have had no complaints either. I was really looking forward to just getting through Night of Champions, getting a champion crown, and then starting to really get some story and feuds and some more matches behind this world title. You know, London's coming up, SummerSlam's coming up. I really want to see, we've talked about it tirelessly, Drew McIntyre coming back and challenging for that World Heavyweight Championship. And I also just want to see him challenge for it. I mean, I know Seth Rollins, I'm sure, is going to have a lengthy run, but I don't expect him to have it, you know, for the next year up until WrestleMania 40. I don't think we need everybody having, you know, months and months and months and year-plus reigns. But Rollins holding it for a few months, dropping it to Drew McIntyre for the World Championship, I think that'd be great. And then McIntyre going on to whoever else, dropping it back to Rollins at the end of the year or early next year. Like, I'm not going to sit here and fantasy book the whole thing. It's not what we're here for, but I'm just looking forward to seeing the wheels in motion for the World Heavyweight title now. We have a champion crown. Raw finally, after all this time, has a new world champion. Rollins, McIntyre, you know, you got Cody on Raw, Gunther down the line when he's no longer Intercontinental Champion. You have a solid lineup of possible World Heavyweight Champions between now and just WrestleMania 40 alone. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how things are going to play out. And hopefully, like I said, to close out this whole conversation, Drew McIntyre will be back on Monday Night Raw in the coming weeks, if not at Money in the Bank or whatever. You know, I can't see him not being in London for that show. Just, it would feel weird not having McIntyre on that show, you know, especially with, you know, the World Championship being crowned and with, you know, Monday Night Raw, him being one of the top guys on Monday Night Raw. So hopefully he's back, hopefully he's in the motions, and possibly being one of the guys to pull down the briefcase in London and become Mr. Money in the Bank. I'd love to see it. I think him coming back as a babyface winning the briefcase, and then ultimately whenever he cashes in turning heel, I think would be a great move, and then sending him along his way to a feud with Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. Sounds great to me. All remains to be seen, but Rollins defeating AJ Styles, great way to start off Night of Champions. But overall, Night of Champions was a real fun show. As I said at the top of this, they continues the streak of great premium live events. I feel like we've been saying that since SummerSlam last year, and SummerSlam was basically a Vince McMahon card that Triple H produced, if you will. So really Clash at the Castle, but Clash at the Castle all the way from Extreme Rules to Survivor Series to, well, we had Crown Jewel as well. All the pay-per-views this year, like we've continuously just been getting these great events from WWE. I feel like after every single one, we're saying it was the best show of its lineage, like best Extreme Rules of all time, best Elimination Chamber of all time, or at least one of the best WrestleManias of all time, one of the best Rumbles of all time. Like, that's a great feeling, so I can hope that continues forward. I hope we get one of the best Money in the Banks of all time, and I hope whoever wins those briefcases in London actually pan out to be stars that are going to be used, because I mean, look at who won last year's Money in the Bank. Liv, her championship reign went to dirt, and Austin Theory cashed in on the US title and lost, so they basically were irrelevant. So hopefully whoever pulls down those briefcases this year, it'll actually mean something. Leave your thoughts on Night of Champions down below. Be sure to go follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at NoahNationVlogs. This video is getting uploaded first. We will follow it up with our Double or Nothing thoughts and review video coming later today. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys hope to see you over there and you enjoyed that video as well, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.